him.
Teaching others, because when I first got into the healthcare field, people overlooked me. I was really a ninth grade dropout who had no education, but I was determined to make something of myself for my baby. So Motor City matched the funds I put into my business. They awarded me $20,000. So now I'm able to focus solely on first step healthcare training and give it everything it needs. All because I live in Detroit.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. I am Saeed Khan, and there has been a lot going on in the world and even here in Detroit with, of course, another Lions victory over the Green Bay Packers yesterday on Thursday night. Found out that was the Lions' fourth game in 18 days. So not quite cricket, but, you know, I guess we'll deal with it anyways. So go Lions.
Wait. Hey, does anybody else here know what that means?
Well, I know it is as an expression, but
you know, Bill,
are you actually referring literally to cricket?
Bill, sometimes there's this thing called dealer's choice, and so we will go ahead and invoke it when need be. Thank you very much. All right. Well, now that we are back to our Brady Bunch nonette, we have joining us as our troika of lawyers, Bill Seikaly, Steve Fishman, and Joel Sklar. We have labor and community activist Barb Ingalls joining us, and welcome to the show is former Axios reporter Sam Robinson, who's also the author of Substack's Detroit 1 Million. We've got president of BME Consulting and former director of Wayne County Public Services Department, Beverly Watts, veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, whose veteranness we will talk about later with a new news item. And of course, we've got co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. So some of you probably spent last week pardoning a turkey. I guess that would be a good enough segue to the fact that President Joe Biden announced that he has pardoned his son, Hunter Biden, for, I believe it was a gun charge, among other things. This has,
a blanket
of course,
pardon.
a blanket pardon.
Blanket pardon.
So for those of you looking for duvets and comforters, you might be running short because Biden has the blanket. Thank you, Bill, for saying that. By the way, this is why I drink pH 7 water.
Well, it is important, Saeed, because it was clear that Trump was going to go after Hunter for anything and everything he could create, and the crime is, I believe, it was for any and all crimes committed against for the 20-year period or the 10-year period.
10-year period.
10 years.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm glad he did it. I was hoping he'd do it. I mean,
how come, Beverly?
Selfish reasons. I'll give him Father of the Year award. Wish my dad would have done that, if I was in that situation. But I'm glad he did. We was hoping he'd do something, show some chutzpah on his way out. I hope he do a lot more on his last couple of days.
And Trump had pardoned his kids, I'd be fucking irate. I understand that Hunter was a target, but Biden made a promise. The promises mean nothing. It really lowers Biden in my esteem. I hate to say it. It does. Your word is your word. That's what I always thought. And apparently your word is your convenient word. And it changes over the wind sometimes. I understand the reasoning, but it bothers me. It's bad precedent. Terrible.
Okay.
I would say, though, that there is a difference between making a promise and changing your mind. And I think the promise was made first of all, the promise was made well before the election. Then we had the election. Then we've had this insane series of nominations to key federal positions, like Kash Patel at the FBI and Matt Gaetz as AG. Of course, he's off the table now, but I've been telling, somebody asked me what I thought about this, and I thought, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. And they have basically been telling Biden, we are going to punish your son because we can't get to you. And that's the way it's going to be. And it's like he changed. So he changed his mind. He protected his son. I want to hear what Steve says.
Steve.
Well, number one, the thing that's most bothersome to me, I'm with Joel. The thing that bothers me the most is, okay, he was able to do that for his own son. There's a lot of people's sons who are out here in the world who have done a lot less than him, by the way. And when you start talking about he's being punished as if he hadn't done anything, look at what this guy did for all these years. And I don't know what his relationship is with his father, but if my kid was involved in the kind of stuff that he was involved in, it'd have been a lot different conversation than whatever went on over there in the Biden household. The stuff that forget the gun thing. That was a ridiculous charge. It's an idiotic charge. Even Lindsey Graham said that. But the income tax thing was obviously serious. It was a couple $1 million by the time that he owed. And all that stuff with Burisma and all the things that he was telling people and blah, 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 and using his father's name. This stuff had been going on for years and years and years. It's not like he had one little screw up and you're going to take care of him. I don't know what Biden's relationship has been over all these years. I understand all the tragedies in the family. Maybe he felt guilty himself because he hadn't done enough to keep the kid from going off the deep end the way he did. But it just, as far as I'm concerned, it looks awful. And I agree with what Joel said. If Trump did this with his kids, or anybody, any Republican did it, we'd all be going nuts. So to me,
well, Steve, I think the problem could have been solved if Joe would have gotten Hunter a new laptop for Christmas.
Pick it up from the shop. Just get your laptop.
But Sam, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah, I want to hear what Sam says because he knows more about this than we do.
One of the things that was being floated around as an option is Biden could have commuted the sentence, and that would have then recognized the underlying charge. I see Steve already shaking his head, but Sam, I want to hear from you.
Biden had a few different options. I think, as we all were talking about in the campaign cycle of the election, he could have in 2022 just said, I'm not going to run for president again. I think getting into the presidency, knowing that his son had these issues, you knew it was going to be a thing. And I think even, I kind of agree with Nancy. There's a difference between lying and changing your mind. I don't know how I wouldn't say that they weren't expecting this to happen the entire time.
Exactly.
Okay, Allan.
You know what? I feel like, okay, he was running for president. I think he would not have pardoned him had he been actually gone through the election. But when Trump is hiring people in the FBI and the Attorney General's office, and they're all saying, we are going to go after our enemies. Hunter Biden had been investigated for 5 years already. If I were the father, I'd say, I'm not going to subject him to these crazy people who are out for a vendetta. I'm not going to do it.
To the father and president. You're not just the father.
Yeah, I get it. But
Steve,
let me just tell you one thing you might be missing. Now that he's been pardoned for anything he ever did in his entire life and whatever, they can drag him in front of a grand jury. He's not going to be able to take the fifth anymore because and who knows what they'll ask him. All that Burisma stuff, trying to contend his father had something to do with it. They can, if they want to. The only thing they can't, obviously, is throw him in the can. But they can still put him through an awful lot of stuff because now you're going to take the fifth for what reason? You can't incriminate yourself. You've been pardoned already.
They've been saying that all morning. Is they're going to still go after him? It's not going to stop. They could. Biden could do all sorts of stuff right now. He could. Everybody with the marijuana in their prisons right now can be let go. I mean, there's so many people that are in jail for stupid bullshit things. Could be pardoned right now. Clear out. Stop all the federal executions that are in line. He could do that, but he saved his kid. And I got to tell you, we're entering a lawless era in the United States. They don't care about the law. They don't care about precedent. They don't care about the way that the country should be run. They are going to run roughshod over this. Save your kid. That's the least of our problems. Is Hunter Biden getting pardoned?
Mm-hmm.
Bill.
Yeah, look, I wish you would have done it in a different way. And I'm hoping that all these people that Trump claims that he's going to go after, Biden pardons before he leaves office. I happen to agree with Barbara. Not that we're entering into a lawless era. We're in a lawless era. I think that, you know, it's no longer the sky is falling, the sky's fallen. I don't like the way that he did it, but boy, do I understand. But it applies to more than just Hunter, in my opinion. And Steve and Joel, God, I hate disagreeing with you guys, but here's the difference. The Biden administration and the Democrats weren't screaming, we're going after Trump's kids. These guys have been screaming that we're going after Hunter Biden forever. Steve knows this as well as anybody. What he would have been subjected to while in prison would have been terrifying. I mean, he wouldn't have been provided with the protection that other prisoners are provided.
That is total horseshit. That is total horseshit. I am telling you. Guys go to prison, police officers go to prison, judges go to prison. First thing, he'd have never been in a prison. He'd have been in a camp, sitting around with 3 other guys shooting baskets when he feels like it. He wouldn't have been in what you're talking about, like it's Jackson prison, for God's sake. Not in a million years.
You think that's what the Trump administration would have done?
The Trump administration has nothing to
left than I do.
The Trump administration has nothing to do with the Bureau of Prisons any more than Biden or a judge or anybody else. I just got done dealing with the BOP for the last 2 weeks where I finally got a decent result. It's like dealing with Jell-O. They don't give a shit who the president is. They don't give a shit who the judge is. And nobody like Hunter Biden, convicted of income tax or whatever it is, he ain't going to a prison. He's going to a camp. And all you don't have in the camp is your woman. Everything else is the same. You get up, you eat, you go shoot baskets, you run around the track. I mean, are you kidding me? There's nothing that's going to happen to that guy.
Right.
And then Bill, if I remember right, I think Shawshank closed in 1969. So,
so you can play opera records over the loudspeaker. Bill? That's fantastic. Yeah.
It goes on beyond Hunter Biden. It goes on for generations. This is precedent now. Now other presidents have a basis to say, hey, my kid committed a crime, I'm going to pardon him. It's a terrible precedent. It makes it creates more immunities in a sense for the presidency. It rises the level almost to one of a monarchy where either the king and his children can do no wrong.
It's like thumbs up or thumbs down, like in Gladiator.
There's a problem. It's a deep problem.
It's a different era, Joel. I mean, back in the 90s, remember Clinton didn't have to adopt Mark Rich to pardon him. So
he also pardoned his brother. Don't forget that.
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, the thing about the GOP being outraged about it, though, here's Trump gets away with all these federal, the case in D.C., the case in Florida. I mean, those were pretty solid cases. And he, tried to overthrow the government, overthrow an election. And these people are screaming about Hunter Biden. I just don't feel they have the standing to be able to really do that legitimately.
And let's not forget that Trump has already said the people he intends to pardon. Now, is yet to be seen, but he said once he becomes president, people that he's going to pardon that's currently in jail. Proud Boys, whoever. So
the January 6th hostages. Yeah. So you mentioned Kash Patel. Kash Patel coming in as the possible FBI director.
Sure.
I mean, of course, we've got such august people as J. Edgar Hoover himself. Kash Patel has demonstrated his bona fides of being up Trump's keister for the better part of the 4 years that he was already in office. Wasn't he at FCC? Or what was Cash's role back then?
No, he wanted to make him, I think, FCC chairman.
The FCC chairman.
He was one of the Bridge Too Far nominees. Him and Matt Whitaker, the masculine toilet guy, and there was like 1 or 2 others. So I'm sorry. Every time I see that bullet head of his, I always think, the masculine toilet guy.
So we.
Steve.
The Palmer.
The thing about Kash Patel, and I'm interested again in what Sam knows from his contacts and things of that nature. This guy of all of the nominees, even though you can look at Hegseth and you look at Linda McMahon, but Kash Patel is on record saying what he intends to do as the FBI director. And when you read his own statements, these are the things coming out of his own mouth. We've talked about this before in cross-examining somebody. The easiest things to use are what comes out of his own mouth. And what comes out of his own mouth, if the Republicans vote to install this guy as head of the FBI, that tells you all you need to know about where their heads are at in terms of respect for the law. Because this is the guy who tells you, I'm going to persecute this person, this person, this person. The authority, people are going to jail, the journalists are going to jail, and you're going to make this person the head of the FBI. I think this is the biggest test of anybody, of any of his crazy nominees.
Need more information to know where they are? Do you really need more information to know where they are? I mean, these are the people who have decided that January 6th was really just a bunch of people coming to celebrate the government.
Exactly.
Beautiful day.
They've changed their position completely. These are the same people who stood up and said, no, this is a bridge too far. He's done. Now have rewritten history and said nothing really bad happened on January 6th.
January 6th was just a regular day at the Capitol, you know? Imagine taking your family, come on, let's go to the Capitol for a tour. And you're like,
let's go to the Capitol and take a
go to the Library of Congress.
Right.
A little bit too intense for me.
Let's go.
And a few of them who's running for their lives, scared for their lives, but they've changed.
I really think that the problem was they ran out of tickets for the tour. And that's what that was all about.
You're right. Everybody wanted in. Everybody wanted to take a shit in Nancy Pelosi's office.
But what about when you have the masculine toilet? I mean, as a substitute. So there's no more excuses left, Allan. But so you were mentioning some of these the personnel, and it seems like there may be a bit of a revolving door. Allan, I think you've got a video regarding the former possible choice for Health and Human Services.
Yes, I do.
Some bad news for Secretary of Health and Human Services nominee and crust that formed on top of the gravy, RFK Jr. FK Jr. is a big fan of raw milk. Well, he's going to have to find a new source, folks, because sales have been suspended at the farm he buys from after bird flu was detected in its unpasteurized milk. Wow, birds are not easy to milk.
You can milk a cat according to Meet the Parents. So
did you see his wife's video where she was selling her healthcare or her skincare line, and he's behind her naked in the shower?
Yeah,
this video out, and you.
There's a reason I stay off social media.
I'm with you, Bill.
It just, really, this whole thing just boggles the fucking mind. It's
grifters all the way down. I mean, it's just like if you've got. Yeah, she's looking. She's trying to
way. Isn't that the American way to market yourself? And Allan, I think we got a video of how our president-elect is already starting to market new products.
Meanwhile, Biden's successor, our president-elect, made an important announcement today, and he is all business.
My new Trump fragrances are here. They make a great Christmas present. I've named them Fight, Fight, Fight because they represent winning. We all want to be winning. We have to win as a nation. We want to win as a family. This fragrance is all about strength and success and confidence for men and for women. Get yourself a bottle and don't forget to grab one for your loved ones too.
And women. It's non-binary.
Right?
It's for men and women.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, so if you had to guess what the fragrance smells like.
A bucket of chicken, KFC.
There's no question Trump stinks. It smells like
it smells like bear spray from the January.
I mean, it's got to smell.
You're looking at us with a condemning look. I don't quite understand.
I mean, I'm guessing maybe Battery Park, New York at low tide. That's. I mean, it's an easy supply. But
I have
New
a
York,
question for Sam.
Yeah,
Sam. Among the younger generation, during this election, did you hear folks who were just saying, "I'm going for Trump. I've had enough." Among the younger generation,
more than Kamala, certainly.
And why? What was the reasoning?
People were so done with the grad school sort of condescending, sort of holier than thou. The messaging is just dead. It's 15 years old. Democratic messaging and Republican messaging, they're using relevant characters in popular culture and media. The music that they have over the little TikTok videos are the most popular artists. It was a very competent, in real time campaign, whereas it really just felt like Kamala Harris folks, which, is the same folks as Biden. We're still in 2011.
But Sam, what about Taylor and the Queen Bee? I mean,
who didn't perform? She was supposed to perform, and she didn't even. I mean, as soon as Beyonce didn't perform, I feel like Beyonce might have known something that we all didn't.
Well, now I know our country's in trouble if a vote or you can be swayed by a performer, celebrity performing or not. We're in trouble with the youth of the future.
The whole momentum thing was
Beverly. I know you were part of the Pepsi generation when Jacko was pimping cola. So don't even tell me that didn't affect you.
If it just takes the art of an entertainer to perform, we're in trouble.
Do you still sing "We Are the World"? No, I'm sorry.
Well, that's interesting that you would say they had all the best entertainers, because
they did.
All right, it was Ted Nugent,
Kid Rock.
What's his face? Kid Rock.
You guys are talking about your era. My era. Baby, Peasy, 4-2 Doug.
Oh, okay.
Kanye West. I mean, come on. Like we had
Kanye.
Trump.
Right.
I'll tell you what, Sam. I mean, when Up With People was with Kamala, it got me to the polls.
Wait. I think what Sam is trying to tell everybody is 100% accurate. There is no sense any of us pretending. I mean, any of us old people. David Ruffin ain't coming back and singing "My Girl." It's just that's not the way the world is. And I hear this from both of my kids and their friends and all of them. Everybody says the exact same thing. And the Democrats they think that we're all 75 years old. I really think he's 100% in. I never heard of the people you were just saying. Every single person, Sam, I've never heard that person's name, let alone, I won't even call it music, whatever it is that passes for music that you all listen to. But that's where the bulk of the population is. I mean, we're just a bunch of old people listening to the miracles.
Don't put me in that category, but I understand what you're saying, Steve and Sam. But I'm glad that, talking to a lot of the youth, and even in his age range and younger than him, they had a different perspective. So I'm so glad that there's diversity in what they saw in this election on both sides. And I'm glad to say that they didn't see and buy into that with the Republicans. Now, they was disenfranchised with both sides, but they were not falling into that rhetoric, what you guys are saying right now. And these are some of the people who are younger than Sam.
So how does the DNC get people back? How do the Democrats recapture the youth that they've lost, if they ever had it at all? Sam, I mean,
I read it.
Cool. It's got to be cool. You got to be marketing, salesmanship, marketing. I mean, coolness is real basic. In order to be popular and win, you need to have fans. Kamala Harris had no fans. I mean, half her supporters couldn't even pronounce her own name. You need to have personality fandom.
Sam, do you think part of it, along with the musicians, what about Joe Rogan? I mean, these really influential podcast people. Do you think that had something to do with it?
No, it has nothing to do with it. I mean, that conversation is because the people having it are so out of touch.
Right.
You don't need a left-wing Joe Rogan. You don't need that. You just need to be able to talk about what you're going to do. And Democrats did a lot. They really did do things. And when they were asked about it, it sounded like they were in.
I agree.
But what if the Republicans, Sam?
They don't know how to talk like a normal person anymore because they've spent so many years surrounded by Democratic adjacents who that's just what they think.
But Sam, I'm just curious, Sam, can you tell me what the Republicans said and defined exactly what you're saying for everybody instead of just talk? What is specifically the themes, A, B, C, D, that the Republicans looked at and Trump said he was going to do that resonated with you and the youth?
Foreign policy.
What about
youth? Foreign policy on the left, people on the left and right that are younger than 30. The right-wing people didn't want our money going to Ukraine. The left-wing people didn't want our money going to Israel. They said they pandered to both sides perfectly. I mean, it was a perfect pander. You go into Dearborn and you say, we're going to end the war before Kamala Harris ever uses that phrase. We're going to end the war. We're going to bring peace.
You're just saying, going in there and just saying what sounds right to get a vote.
Yes, because when Democrats do it,
Okay.
Yes, we're playing
Okay.
politics here.
But
I
you know, I mean,
it works.
it's interesting that they went to Dearborn just days before the election and said we're going to end the war and we're all for you. And then they bring in like ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, who says there is no such thing as Palestinians. You've got all, now one of the senators wants to change.
The truth doesn't matter in this, man.
It doesn't matter. All it matters was to market and sell themselves. And Kamala Harris chose not to until the very last day. She did not use the phrase "end the war in Gaza" till the very last day. She would talk about hostages before she would talk about anything else. That's not what anybody wanted to hear.
I want to understand what Sam's saying. Can I just ask him a question, guys? Sam, I'm hearing two different things from you.
All right.
One, that they got the message wrong, that their messaging was wrong, and the other was the policies don't matter. It's only the messaging. Is that what you're saying? You've got to do this with current people. You've got to be hip. You got to, but what you have to say. I mean, that's my problem with what I've seen is that Trump was saying these things, but anybody who believed him couldn't have been paying any attention. And it seems to me that what you're saying is, yeah, that's right. It's what matters is the message and not the substance.
No, because nobody reads after the election ends, we don't care about political news anymore. Like we're done with it. Like the general public believes Trump stuff more than they believe what Democrats are selling. Like the general public, 6 out of 10 are going to tell me, well, Trump gave me a stimulus check. And I had to sell that story to my free press editors who are like, is this a real thing? Kamala Harris staff gets all mad at me for doing that story. It's like they put me on the phone with somebody who was like, yeah, I thought it was too before I started working with this campaign. It was amateur hour. It was really, working with that campaign for months, we're not the most organized versus Trump's campaign. You know who they had as their communication director in Michigan was the daughter of Trump's, was the senior advisor's daughter, Chris LaCivita. Victoria LaCivita was working in Michigan. On the other side, you had 6 people that had never even met Kamala.
Wow.
The Democrats, man, they're typical inept. Please just believe us because our policies are always better. I can't wrap my brain around anybody that believes or believed for 1 second that anything that Trump said is going to be good for the country or good for young people or good for anybody. I have a hard time with it, but I understand. I think the media failed us. I'm like a broken record on this, and I know it, but I think the media failed us in the most profound way. But the DNC is going to drop the ball every time because they're old nitwits that don't listen to anything but each other.
Yeah.
I heard something far more profound from Sam, and that is not that the media failed us, but that our educational system fails us. Because if he's right, 6 out of 10 people aren't paying any attention after the election.
9 out of 10.
I'm sorry?
It's more than 6. It's just a general.
If that's true, our educational system is failing us more than anything else. Absolutely. That we are not educating good citizens.
I think, Bill, we have to come to the realization that your generation and mine are just skibbity. So, yeah. So I'm just saying.
So, generation. Let's pray.
I want to say something. Yeah. I did a story during the campaign about the other side. The Republicans were sending out flyers about menthol cigarettes here in Detroit, saying they're taking away your menthol cigarettes. And so I did a whole story on it. And there was an FDA. There was supposed to be a ban on menthol cigarettes at some point. They delayed doing it, and I tried to get comments from the Michigan people here who were part of the campaign. And they were like, no, we're not going to comment. And I said, well, they said, but look to what we said like 4 months ago. And they didn't know how, they hired either a lot of very young people or a lot of Ivy League folks who were so detached, and they didn't understand how to directly communicate. And I was like, you have to say something. And they said, no, we can't say anything about that. They were, I'm sure it was hand wringing for hours and hours. And I kept saying, are you going to comment? Well, give us another hour. and then they came back and said we're not going to comment.
That's how they operated. And it's funny. I saw that same ad. I sent that to them, and they didn't want to comment to me either. We were going to do a story, and it kind of just broke down because it was too close to the election.
But to me, it's a bigger issue. It's a bigger issue, and I hope people like you, Sam, and others would have just talked about more of that, because for them to come out and insinuate that this only happened in urban areas, the Black communities. I mean, we other areas smoke just as many of those cigarettes and would affect them. You know, you look at the down rivers, you look upper rural. So to me, it's bigger than just saying, oh, okay, let's just go some against the Democrats. That's what they're going to have the FDA do. But the bigger message is what you're saying is downgrading and being insensitive and saying all of the urban areas and Black people, we smoke cigarettes.
Well,
and
so
that's not Friday.
One last thing. I want to try and wrap this around a great editorial piece I read in the Free Press. Watch this segue. I do think that to respond to Alex, who just said, look, admitted the Democrats just ran a bad campaign. One of the things we need to do is allow the Bobolo boat to sink.
Funny you mentioned that, Bill, because we've got video.
If you know a thing or two about life in Detroit, aka Motown, then you know some things are just iconic. From the Woodward Dream Cruise and treasured Bobolo boat to Motown music.
I just don't think it needs to be the soundtrack of Detroit that we hear everywhere. There's some great music being made in the city today.
That's retired journalist Nancy Derringer. She says she likes Motown music, but when she recently wrote an opinion piece that appeared in the Detroit Free Press, she made it clear Detroiters need to let go of things that are holding the city back.
Detroit has a particularly bad case of what I consider nostalgia poisoning. A lot of people just cannot stop looking back to the good old days instead of looking forward.
By the way, nostalgia poisoning.
Nancy.
Nostalgia poisoning came in as runner-up in the Oxford English Dictionary's phrase of the year.
I'm
To
glad
bring
to hear
up.
I love when they cut to the beloved Bobolo boat, which looks like it has been neglected for 50 years and set on fire, all of which it has. And so if I hear one more like ode to the bumpy cake, I think I'm just gonna have to sign off. But anyway.
So you want us to listen to the music that Sam was telling us about, and none of us should listen to the Miracles or the Marvelettes anymore. Is that what you're saying, man? No wonder you're in Grosse Pointe.
And Marvelettes all you want.
No wonder you're in Grosse Pointe.
There's been a lot of great music. I'm sorry.
As Barb and I will attest, MC5, the Stooges, we got to kick out the jam. I'll leave it at that.
But you have to remember, some of these rappers now, they're just regenerating. They're using the old tones. They're just using different words. They're not writers and creators now. Everything is, you know.
And I don't say that because my daughter plays in a band here. So there you go.
Hey, let's take a quick commercial.
Okay.
I love teaching others because when I first got into the healthcare field, people overlooked me. I was really a ninth grade dropout who had no education, but I was determined to make something of myself for my baby. So Motor City matched the funds I put into my business. They awarded me $20,000. So now I'm able to focus solely on first step healthcare training and give it everything it needs. All because I live in Detroit.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
So I get it that it's New York City and that there's a certain level of crime in the city, but even this
Please
is one
don't
worse.
fall into that trap.
Which one?
Much crime in New York City. It's like it's not the 70s anymore. Okay, New York is basically a gated community for the rich and tourists, and it is a extremely safe city, unless of course You're Brian
Thompson. Nancy. The last movie Steve saw was Death Wish, so I was just trying to contextualize it for him.
No. The last movie was Purple Rain. I've told you that 10 times.
Easily, I know. All right, go on.
Well, Death Wish was the prequel to people whose music was murdered. Well, anyway, United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, 50 years old, had been in his role for 3 years, was gunned down on 6th Avenue in front of the New York Hilton Midtown by a suspect who has now been, at least some of his Crime Stopper photos are available, including one where he was grinning. He took one of those city rent-a-bikes, came upon Mr. Thompson and shot him in the back several times, to which Mr. Thompson succumbed to his injuries. I'm really astounded by the level of vitriol that is being directed against Mr. Thompson in an almost totemic way. Barb.
Why are you surprised? Why are you surprised? I mean, I have to know, why are you surprised? Murder is wrong. Okay, murder is wrong. Cold-blooded murder is wrong. People are being savaged. While we're speaking right now, probably 1,000 people are being denied health-affirming care. People are being billed for stuff that they didn't need. They're not, I mean, I can't believe that people are surprised that there are parties right now over this guy's death.
We're getting turned over for necessary.
Saeed is telling you he has good health insurance because
I have good health insurance.
The people who have to deal with companies like United Healthcare are the ones who are jumping up and down. And the other thing is
a 33% decline rate.
Yeah, I know, decline of services. And you know, I didn't really think anything of this until, because I thought, you never know, this guy could be caught and he's going to say he's one of the lizard people and I had to kill him because of the voices in my head told me he was a lizard. I mean, but when they found those shell casings at the scene that had been engraved or etched, deny, delay, and depose, that kind of kicked it up several notches into what it is now, which is apparently it was not only a targeted hit, it was a targeted hit based on the fact that this guy is the CEO of one of the most cold-hearted health insurers in the country right now.
And they're saying a lot because they all suck.
Steve.
It's interesting that this is the thing you guys are focused on. This morning in the gym, I said to the other people, what I can't believe is the person is still at large. It's beyond my comprehension, given the amount of scrutiny. And that one picture, right. If it was a picture of Nancy Derringer, a bunch of us we'd call up the cops and say, "Hey, that's Nancy Derringer going Grosse Pointe next to a fancy neighborhood."
I would not turn you in.
Yeah, Nancy, all the people who love the Babalo boy would rejoice over your arrest.
No, seriously.
You're right.
How is it that he's not yet been identified? It's beyond my comprehension.
It is, and
they've got to have his name. I don't know why they have to have his name by now. I'd be shocked.
And can I just say that it was his getaway was a real testimony to the power of a bicycle. You know, I mean, a bike can get you around in ways that a car cannot. And that guy he really thought this through. I mean, he, stayed in a hostel and I guess the picture of him smiling, it was some girl at the hostel. Thank you. It was some girl at the hostel who said something like, was flirting with him or something and said, "I want to see your face." And he pulled his mask down briefly and smiled at her. But I mean, if that girl hadn't been there, he might just be the nose that hangs out over the black mask. I mean, I'm amazed they haven't caught him either.
Have you guys seen the comments like in the Washington Post story?
Yes.
It's like people. This has unleashed something that for some reason a lot of people didn't know about. You know, every time you see a GoFundMe for a child's health care.
Yeah.
Every time you hear about somebody denied any kind of heart procedure, or your grandma's health insurance runs out and she's thrown out in the street. Every person that's gone through that, everyone who has seen that happen
is thinking, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, again, murder is wrong. I'm not saying that it's right, but
Barb, this sort of ties into our previous discussion about people having impunity and disregarding the law, because vigilante justice is actually something that's happened before in Death Wish. But okay, Alan.
I was going to say, we see this, and maybe sometimes the media isn't, as a student, picking up on these kinds of things. This well of hatred. When in '95, speaking of the past, in '95 when the Oklahoma bombing, I was up in Decker, Michigan, and there were all these people who hated the federal government. The federal government was foreclosing on farms there. And there was a big anti-government. There were militias out there, which we didn't know about.
Unless you lived up there.
Resentment in America over a lot of different things,
Well, Alan, that was also there was a mood in the country, right? I mean, it was right after Waco. There was Ruby Ridge. Right. So it seemed as though there were quite a few different things that were happening there to kind of create something. Well, we've got some post-healthcare professional or administrator news here. Looks like Mayor Mike Duggan has announced that he is in fact running for governor, but as an independent. I see, Bill, you are shaking your head to this.
Yeah, I mean, a smart political move, I suppose, because I don't think that he believed that he could win in a primary against Jocelyn Benson and Gilchrist, which is probably.
Oh, he can beat Gilchrist in a walkover.
No, I was careful.
Okay.
I said in a race in which Gilchrist and Jocelyn Benson were both
in the primary.
Oh, okay.
I think that some of the Detroit vote that Duggan would have been counting on would have gone to Gilchrist, and I think that he would have had some problems beating. My struggle with this is he's left. He clearly is leaving the Democratic Party to become a quote independent, and the difficulty is. Me is that this is really likely to create a situation in which a Republican can become governor, because if assume that the nomination is Benson and Duggan would split the vote and allow somebody like, God forbid, Sean Cox to become governor.
Well, I'll tell you, you know what, as far as money is concerned, I mean, right away, Bill Ford came out. Endorsed Duggan. I think he's going to have Dan Gilbert and the Illiches. I think he's going to have a lot of money.
No, he'll have money. But do you really think the Democratic Party is going to say, "Okay, we won't run anybody"?
No.
That's going to be the result. Okay. And if Democrats run somebody like Jocelyn Benson, and Duggan's running, you don't think that creates a real opening for a Republican to come in?
Yeah,
I think it does.
Well on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does. And
that's my concern too.
Republicans are the happiest people of all hearing this news. I talked to Bill Schuette last night. It was like, the little one, not the.
If I was him, I wouldn't get too happy.
He's like, we're gonna have a strong Republican Party. He's like, I've appreciated working with Duggan on some legislative issues, but
the problem with that, Sam, is the Republicans don't have a viable candidate right now, even solidly. But
they do. They're gonna have one. They will. I mean, they got Eric Nesbitt. They got John James. They got Super Dixon could put her hat.
John James.
Remember, I said solid.
A noun, a verb, and a helicopter. For
John James barely wins home when he outspends his opponent 5-1. There's no way. I mean, he's regarded.
No way.
I mean, he won.
They're coalescing around Nesbitt. Everyone in the legislature is coalescing around Nesbitt. They're going to try to do that. They tried last time, and the people chose Tudor instead. So I mean, the party and the lawmakers, talking about it are two different camps. But I do think that Duggan believes he can take some Republican votes. I don't know what kind of Republican he thinks he's going to vote for, a guy that just campaigned for Kamala Harris, who says Joe Biden is my best friend and the best thing that's ever happened to Detroit.
There's a whole narrative, though, around Mike Duggan among white Republicans, and it's that he was the white man who came in and saved Detroit. It was like the same thing they tried to, the same narrative they tried to build around James Craig, before he fucked everything up. But I mean, he was the man who kept Detroit from burning.
Would you be surprised to hear that he gave no credit? I mean, obviously now he's running for governor, but Schuette, obviously the son of Schuette, is like, well, the grand bargain happened, and I think the Republicans coming in and saving the day. He gave no credit to Duggan, at least in the conversation about his independence.
Well, but he may be a candidate himself. I mean, you don't know. He's got it. I mean, he's just my point is that I think there are going to be a lot of moderate Republicans who are disgusted by the whole MAGA wing of the party, who say, I can vote for this guy because he's basically just like me.
I think he's more Trump. I think he gets more Trump than he does those people, to be honest. I think he gets more Trump supporters because he's a little Trumpian. He's a little Trump-esque. Maybe.
You mean Duggan?
Duggan gets more Trump supporters than he does people mad at the Republican Party for Trump, in my opinion.
Possible. I don't know.
I think he'll get them both, but I think you're right on, Nancy.
Yeah.
Well,
I would alter what Nancy said just slightly. I think that there's a lot of white Republicans, a lot of white outstaters who say, not that they saved Detroit. I don't think they could give a rat's ass about whether he saved Detroit. He saved Michigan from having to deal with Detroit.
Sure.
I think that's their perspective. I think it's much more draconian than this.
He's a sharp politician. I mean, I think Duggan is one of the sharper politicians. Come down.
He's a strategist. One thing about it, and you guys know, everybody knows that he's a strategist. He's not going to jump on something that he didn't research and strategically focus in on. He's laser sharp, a strategist. So I wouldn't rule it out. I agree with Bill that it's a little concern for me, hopefully, when the party splits, because you have that whole machine. Republican and Democrats have their machine that comes with labor, anybody else. So that's going to be the struggle within the Democratic Party, one that Duggan is revered and admired in the Democratic Party for things that he did for Detroit and the region and the whole group in Michigan, and then others who've just been diehard Democrats. So I hope that doesn't open a pathway for a Republican to get in, which I don't think so, because we don't have anyone remotely close to a Jocelyn or Duggan in the next 2 years to be prepared, a Republican. So we'll see.
Well, I mean, if Duggan doesn't want to run for governor, he could perhaps run for prime minister of France or president of South Korea, because it looks like there are crises in both. The French parliament is on the brink of collapse because the far right and the far left actually got together to screw over the centrist party led by Prime Minister Michel Barnier. France has yet to have a budget for next year, but I'm not sure if they've got anything left over from trying to clean out the Seine for the Olympics. And in South Korea, there was a flirtation with martial law. Where the president felt that opposition leaders were giving him the side glance, I guess, and he decided that he was going to float the idea of martial law, which was then shut down quite decisively. And now it looks like he faces impeachment. For those of you who are keeping track on the bingo card, that would be President Yoon Suk Yeol. But are we in a moment where democracies around the world are starting to shimmy and shake?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's very clear that that's what's happening right now. And it's go ahead.
And the fact that we have our great democracy to the north, led currently, and perhaps not for very much longer, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he who may be suspected of having Fidel Castro as a father, goes down to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President-elect Trump. Is this, oh, please don't shoot us with your 25% tariffs?
I view that a little differently. I mean, I have some respect for Trudeau. I think he was trying to manage him. And the way you manage him is going down and saying, "Oh, you're great. You really don't want to do this to us. Oh, you're wonderful."
He loves having his big doughy ass kissed. I'll tell you that, and for them to come to him, so you can. I mean, he can. I mean, Trudeau is very charming. He's He's great looking. He speaks fluent French, which is very sexy, of course. And
you know, Nancy, I think he's got that je ne sais quoi.
He's got the je ne sais quoi, exactly. But he can go down there and say, you really need to. Do you really want to rethink this? I mean, keep in mind, we're neighbors. We're America Junior, and and just the fact that he came to Trump, I think, will work in his favor, because he'll be like, I made Justin Trudeau come down to me.
Nancy, you missed the D. Big doughy. You missed the D. Big doughy diaper.
Yeah.
This alliteration is making me woozy. Barb, I wanted to ask you and Sam, Stellantis CEO Tavares has now resigned, not to be confused with the very excellent group Tavares that was on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. What do you think this is going to mean for the UAW, for contract negotiations and moving forward?
He was in the way. Okay. We will see how the company, he was at any given point, he was still speaking for Stellantis, whether it was him or not. So we'll see. I think it probably made Sean Fain pretty happy. Hopefully that'll keep people at their jobs and not on the streets. We'll see.
Okay.
And lastly,
I got to squeeze this in. So Michigan beats Ohio State 13-10 in the shoe. And after the game, there was a bit of a skirmish while Ryan Day, the head coach for the Ohio State Buckeyes, literally looked like a deer caught in headlights in his catatonic stupor. Both teams were fined $100,000. There were no suspensions, all because the Michigan players were looking to plant the Michigan flag in the middle of the field. So, thoughts about the game, thoughts about the after game?
Unbelievable game. They should have lost. Nobody expected them to win. It is an incredible victory. It's for Sharon Moore, it's a signature win. You beat Ohio State. I think Ryan Day may get toasted if he doesn't win a national championship. He lose to Michigan like this year after year in Ohio. Unbelievable game. Michigan has no offense, none. And to have the defense, what Martindale did defensively was just genius. To hold that Ohio State potent offense to 10 points. My God, it was really wonderful to watch. Very unexpected.
Can I ask you sports ball people a question, though? This flag planting thing, is this a new thing, or has this been going on for a while?
It's been going on for a bit. Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
Texas planted the flag in Ann Arbor this year when they beat Michigan. Mm-hmm. Michigan planted the flag 2 years ago at Ohio State when they beat them. What's going to happen, in my opinion, $100,000, okay, fine. I think they're going to make a rule in the conference, at least, and maybe nationwide, that you can't do it, and they're make the penalty far higher than that. They'll suspend the player for a season or something, and that'll put an end to it. Because, quite frankly, to me, you beat them in their gym, you don't need anything more than that.
Yeah, that just seemed like needlessly, particularly for that game in that place. It seemed like it was asking for a fight. To me,
maybe that's the rivalry.
That's the rivalry. No, I agree.
That's the beauty of it. Go ahead, have a little skirmish.
Yeah, Ohio State has done that with their flag. Ohio State has done that before with their flag, but of course.
Well, I guess that's my thing. Is it a trend, or is it's just okay? Whatever.
Ohio State can't say they never tried to do that. They just sour grapes because they lost. And I'm
it's getting more attention now. It seems like it's getting more attention now than it has in recent years. In last weekend, rivalry weekend, we saw it more than we have ever. It
does seem like it kind of.
Remember, everything gets more attention now because it's a nation that's transfixed with entertainment. Kind of, Sam, going back to what you were saying about politics. This is what it's all about. People are gambling on every game. They're all sitting there worrying about whether the running back gained enough yards so they can win their little bet on FanDuel or something like that. So the whole world sits there and watches this crap.
But Steve, to be fair, I think there were more punches thrown at the Michigan-Ohio State game than at the Mike Tyson fight. So, it's all about getting your money's worth. Allan, I think we're ready to go to our last segment.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
Okay, Sam, since you are a little bit new to this, if you want, I'll show you how it's done. We'll have some of the others go through, and then we'll go ahead and you can jump on in. Beverly.
No, mine is simple, and I do get it, especially what Barb was saying, but mine is Taylor Lawrence. I understand about the healthcare; it's extremely high. You have individuals who can't even afford, the basics. But at the same time, her apology, but not apology. I still think at the end of the day, we need to be a humane society and not this vigilante where you would perpetuate what someone is saying, calling for death of anybody. I don't think we need to go there. So she's my schmuck of the week for apologizing, but not apologizing.
I think it would have been easier if Charles Bronson would have done it, but okay.
We're back to Charles. I gave mine away earlier. My schmuck of the week is Kash Patel. And I think if you really want to read a great column, there's one in the Bulwark today talking about the kind of characters he's hung around with and the kind of podcasts that he's done and the kinds of things that he has said. And for anybody to think that this person is going to be the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation is really something that's beyond my comprehension. So he wins it easy as far as I'm concerned.
That's what they said about J.D. Vance, and look where he's going now.
Yes.
So, yeah.
There's another elegy to be had. Barb.
Pete Hegseth, who is such a vile person that his mother, a letter that his mother wrote about what a vile person he was made public. And unfortunately, she's had to make the rounds to say that, her baby boy, she really shouldn't have said it. And blah, 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 blah. But she called him out on he's a pig to women. He's a violent abuser. And what better person to put in charge of the fucking military than...
Did you hear some of the anecdotes about his drinking that came out this week? My favorite was the Fox. He was on Fox and Friends on the weekend. I don't have cable, so I don't watch this stuff. But that they were doing a little segment on beers for the holidays. Okay. And these beers had been sitting out on a table under hot lights for several hours. So they were warm and flat and disgusting. And he went down after the show was over, he went down by the table and drank every single one.
Wow.
Did you see the picture of him in his underpants at the 9/11 memorial?
No.
With an American flag.
Wow.
I saw that.
This is what was voted for is this barrel of schmucks.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, Sam. Now you've got a bit of a warm up before you.
Revolution in your face.
My schmuck of the week is my old boss, Jim Vandehei, Axios founder. He wanted to get in a fight with Elon on Twitter, talking about how reporters aren't just people that are tweeting out. Jim, I was a reporter just tweeting out my stories until I had to start my own Substack. You're wrong. So for that, Jim, and your failed attempt at getting Elon, he got you. I mean, you got ratioed times 10, Jim. You're not going to win a Twitter fight with Elon Musk. So for that, you're going to get my schmuck of the week.
He and Mike Allen, and is Mike Allen the other Axios guy? Yep. They have been polishing Trump's knob vigorously since the election, and it's
some might argue even before the election. Some might say before.
Very
Fish is gone. Fish, you finally offended Fish.
He had something to do. He bills by the hour,
Well, Sam, just so that you know, it is 17 days before Festivus, so you can re-air your grievance then if you find an aluminum pole. So there you go.
Sam, do you have a clue as to what he's talking about?
What? Who?
Yeah,
Festivus. Yes, I'm 27. I was 97 years. So I'm,
Yeah, he's at that age.
Yes.
There you are.
30 years old. I know what you're talking about. Yes. Maybe if I was 17, I might not.
Bill, I think he can spell syndication. So, Joel.
Okay, I'm going to have to go with President Biden. I think that the office of the presidency has been so diminished. It's going to be diminished still. And for him to diminish it again, when he was the guy supposed to save democracy, you've diminished democracy. You've given the presidency even more power and more reason to be corrupt, and for his family to be more reason to corrupt and take advantage of the office for generations to come. And it's a terrible precedent that you set. I understand the reasons why, but he's my schmuck. The office is bigger than the person who occupies it. And we seem to lose sense of that. And that disappoints me, but he is my schmuck of the week.
I think they said that when Taft was president, Joel.
Oh my God.
I would just say this: if you
He's a
think
big
Trump,
man.
if you think that Trump is going to take that as a signal of what he should do, Trump's already got the blueprint for criminality.
Yeah, but he's got a reason though. But he's got a basis and precedent for we're doing
You did
whatever.
that, Joe?
Okay,
He
Bill.
did that when he left the first time.
Listen, it would have been easy to go with almost every nominee that that Trump has suggested for his cabinet, but I'm more concerned about all the people who have come down and taken the knee, kissed the ring, and polished the knob. Did I miss any of these, Nancy?
Just the doughy ass.
Yeah, kissed me behind. Virtually at every level, the people who are needlessly, especially people in the media, who have just caved and said, "Hey, he's in, he's powerful. We've got to fall in line." From a historical point of view, is terrifying to me. That what it portends for the future is terrifying, and I include in that all these people who have taken. This is kind of an old story, but Hobby Lobby took Hanukkah decorations off the shelves, and people who are getting rid of inclusion programs, and people who said, "Oh, we now have equality. We don't need to do any of that stuff." People who are eviscerating the Voting Rights Act. All of them are my schmucks of the week.
Bill, I actually was really offended the other day. I went into a store and they wished me happy Ramadan, and I'm like, it's not for 3 months.
You're rushing the season.
Yeah, don't make me fast.
It's called.
Don't make me fast sooner than I have to.
And I'm already hangry.
Oh. Sorry.
Nancy.
Who's next?
You. Nancy.
Oh, me. Okay. I'm going to go a little. I'm going to try to lighten it up a little bit. I'm going with the entire population of my hometown of Columbus, Ohio. I'm from Ohio. I'm from Columbus. I did not go to Ohio State, so I have no allegiance to this place. But this city goes completely apeshit during Michigan Week to an extent that Ann Arbor can't even come close to. It's just. It's the entire city is so invested in it, and they do this stupid thing. Started after I left. I can't take any responsibility for it. Where they cover up they put X's over the M's in any public sign that you can find. So if you're running a I'll have to think of something. If a medical facility, it becomes the ethical facility. X. It's so
McDonald's.
Unbelievably.
That's great.
And it seems to make it some sort of like magical hex that they're putting on Michigan.
It's an magical hex.
When you kill somebody, you order that.
An magical hex. Yeah.
Right.
Or like in The Shining, Alan, red ruh.
Red ruh. Yeah, exactly. So it's so funny, and of course it failed.
Nancy, I'm gonna do you a solid. The fatwa that is now against you for the Boblo boat comment, I'm going to bring upon me by Colombians, meaning from Columbus, not from from the university or the country. They're so stupid in Columbus that they X out the M, but they kept the rest of the word Michigan in Michigan Avenue.
I didn't know there is a Michigan Avenue in Columbus.
There is a Michigan Avenue. It's a state capital. They have they ran out of things to name things after when they ran out of golf course names, so they then went to states.
Michigan,
okay, yeah. Alan.
I'm going to go with Vivek Ramaswamy, who is saying that they need to get rid of 75% of the federal workers, which the guy has no clue how government works. He has no clue about the agencies, and he's just talking stupid shit. I mean, the upside is that little crazy commission, Doge or whatever, is only they only make recommendations that then Congress can act on, and so I don't think they're going to get a lot done, to be honest.
All right, that's a good one. So my schmuck of the week is the drunken Buffalo Bills fan who shoved in his inebriated state an 8-year-old 49er fan named Mia de Camilla. who not only was there watching the game in the Snow Bowl that was Buffalo last week. Great game, by the way. But she's a 2-time liver cancer survivor. And this guy just barrels his way down, and her rib cage then goes right into the side of the seat. She's physically okay. She said that she's a little bit emotionally upset about both that and the fact that the Niners got their ass kicked. But what this is what happens at football games now. There's just no etiquette.
How did they happen to knock her over? What was going on?
Oh, she was in the stands, and this guy's he's barreling down. He apparently leaned because he had no sense of balance or equilibrium because of the inebriation.
I was wondering if he's
probably had beers in his hands.
Yeah, no, he was quite tagged. I mean, I don't know if he was Hesketh tagged, but he was definitely drunk.
Okay, so it wasn't like in baseball where they're going for a ball or anything like that. It was
no, nothing like that. This was just in the stands. He was just drunk.
Drunk. So
Schmuck of the week.
He was
listen,
Smith.
thank you all for just another great conversation about the week that was, and welcome and hope you're coming back, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Thank you to, of course, many of our regulars here. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, and with the last word, always on his road to recovery, Allan Lengel.
Drive home safely.
Have a great week. Have a great weekend, everybody.